In 1885, nearly every major power in Europe would meet at a conference called by the German Chancellor, Otto von Bismarck. Laid out on a table before these world leaders is a map, and with pens at the ready, they begin to carve up a continent. The resulting General Act of the Conference of Berlin would state all the powers exercising sovereign rights or influence in the aforesaid territories bind themselves to watch over the preservation of the native tribes and to care for the improvement of the conditions of their moral and material well-being, and to help in suppressing slavery, and especially the slave trade. However, these European leaders used this justification to carve the entire continent of Africa up, giving the king of the relatively new nation of Belgium, Leopold II, a personal ownership over the Congo River basin. What would happen there is far from anything considered civilized. Before the Conference of Berlin, the only European influence was in coastal trading ports and the odd explorer that disappeared into the jungle. One of these such explorers was a Dr. David Livingstone, who was presumed to be dead when journalist and fellow explorer Henry Morton Stanley set off into the Congo to find the doctor. Eventually, Stanley would find Livingstone in the village of Ujiji in modern Tanzania. Stanley wrote on the experience. By this time, we were within 200 yards of the village, and the multitude was growing denser and almost preventing our march. Flags and streamers were out. Arabs and Wangwana were pushing their way through the natives in order to greet us. Upon reading Stanley's book, King Leopold II was transfixed with the natural abundance of the Congo and hired Stanley to explore and claim the Congo basin in the name of Leopold. While he claimed to fight slavery and help spread Christianity in the region, Leopold instead had his personal soldiers, the Force Publique, enslave the native population and massacred them in droves. A British member of Parliament, Edmund Morrell, would write his account, Red Rubber, based on his own personal experiences in the so-called Congo Free State, in which he would state, those atrocities have been recorded in an unbroken stream since 1892 and even earlier, but they have not, in the main, been publicly accessible until recently. Slowly have they emerged into the light. Some are still coming out. Others continue to be hidden. Nothing even approximating the whole truth will ever be known. The people of the Congo were worked to death by Leopold's soldiers. The atrocities committed inspired the Polish author Joseph Conrad to write Heart of Darkness, also based on his personal experiences in the Congo. Entire villages were depopulated, with many being slaughtered or mutilated for not meeting the Force Publique's set rubber quotas. Conrad wrote on the subject, they grabbed what they could for the sake of what was to be got. It was just robbery with violence, aggravated murder on a grand scale, and men going at it blind, as is very proper for those who tackle a darkness. The atrocity started while Stanley was claiming the Congo, and in the late 1880s, African-American minister George Washington Williams would tour the Congo. Appalled by what he witnessed, Williams wrote an open letter to King Leopold II stating, instead of the natives of the Congo adopting the fostering care of your Majesty's government, they complain everywhere that their land has been taken by force, that the government is cruel and arbitrary, and declare that they neither love nor respect the government and its flag. Williams died on his return trip to the United States, however, and Leopold ignored his letter. But while Leopold ignored Williams, the international community did not. Williams spoke out about the crimes being carried out, stating, Your Majesty's government has sequestered their land, burned their towns, stolen their property, enslaved their women and children, and committed other crimes too numerous to mention in detail. Williams also mentions Stanley's role in tricking the Congolese into signing away their freedom on a piece of paper. Williams' condemnation sparked international outcry, and by the turn of the century, the very nature of imperialism was being argued by two major camps. In 1899, Rudyard Kipling published his infamous poem challenging Europeans to quote unquote take up the white man's burden, believing that bringing Christianity to the native Africans was worth the death and despair. Edmund Morel, however, wrote The Black Man's Burden as a response in 1903, stating that in hewing out for himself a fixed abode in Africa, the white man has massacred the African in heaps. However, violence against native Africans did not just occur in the Congo, and every European power involved was guilty of its own atrocities. Even American author Mark Twain joined the condemnations, writing King Leopold's Soliloquy, in which he took Leopold's perspective. He wrote, "Blister those meddlesome missionaries. They are always prowling from place to place. The natives consider them their only friends. They go to them with their sorrows. They show them the scars and wounds inflicted by my soldier police. They hold up the stumps of their arms and lament because their hands have been chopped off for not bringing in enough rubber." The death was overwhelming, and in all, it is estimated that 10 million people died due to a man who never set foot in the Congo himself. The Belgian government would force Leopold to give up his property, but while the Belgians reduced the number of atrocities, they did not stop. The effects of imperialism left a cruel scar on the Congo, and cities once known as Leopoldville and Stanleyville were renamed by the new Congolese government to Kinshasa and Kisangani. Leopold II never faced consequences for his actions, and he died as the King of Belgium. In 1885,